How's it going, everyone? It's Keith here, and down at the allotment quite early, well, not very early, like 9-10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I've just been doing some weeding, picked a few bits and pieces, and I thought since it's a new month I would give you another little update about what's going on. So I will start at the back of the allotment and sort of just work forward. So behind me, just over here, are all of our courgette plants. Well, most of them. I think we've got 4 or 5 courgette plants and 2 pattypan plants. We got the courgettes in the ground really early, so we've been having courgettes for a good couple of months now, and you can kind of see that they are sort of coming towards the end of their vigorous production period. At one point, sort of at the height of it, each plant had 2 or 3 courgettes every single week, and we were picking them all the time basically. So we just had too much, which is, it's okay. We could pickle some and ate it basically every single day. But we've got 3 other pots of courgettes over here, so that's almost like a second succession. So hopefully, because they're in pots, I don't think they'll produce as vigorously, but we'll still have some courgettes for later on in summer. And we've got a couple of pattypan squash planted down there, and then a few in the front, and they're doing okay. They don't produce that much. I don't know if that's just how they work, what the variety is like, or we did something wrong. But what we'll do next year, and we've kind of started realizing this now as we've planted things for the first year on allotment, we've decided on things that we might not want to keep or things we want to change. And with the courgette, we probably won't plant as many courgettes, especially of this variety, because it's so vigorous. We get so much that we would rather sacrifice the space. I'd rather get rid of the courgettes and have less of them, and put other things there, so maybe more pattypan squash, since they maybe aren't as vigorous, so we could sort of even that out a bit. And another example is our broad beans over here, and they are in a pretty bad state. They got completely infested with black fly, and no matter what we tried, I mean, like Katie spent like an hour going through everything and like kind of getting them off, but they just kept on coming back basically. And we've had a few harvests, nothing too big from them, but for the space we've grown them on and how much we've actually picked from them, we don't think it's that worth it. It might be worth it if we could maybe triple the size and get a variety that was resistant to black fly, because it's just been a nightmare. We'd rather use the space for something that's very productive, so we can reap the fruits of our labor basically. And I'm just seeing now there's a ladybird on one of the raw beans. Like, why couldn't they have been here earlier to kill all the black fly? Anyway, moving on. The next little section, we've got like a mixed match of things. So we've got our oca, which is like a tuber, and we only be able to harvest that in November, so it's quite a slow growing crop. We've got some lettuce, some beetroot, and some nasturtiums, and they're all doing well. They're just doing their thing. The beetroot are probably almost ready to pick, I'd say, within a week or so. At least this bunch here. We've got another succession in another bed that are pretty much ready now, but Matt and Katie have gone away for a week, so I'd rather wait for them before we pick some. They'll be okay in the ground. So and behind me over here is one of our bigger beds, and it was one of the ones we sort of did last. So we've got brassicas on either side. We've got a second succession of kohlrabi over here, and we can actually do a third succession of that after midsummer for like an autumn harvest, which is cool because they grow really quickly. So I mean, these have come on probably like 3 times as faster as our first succession, which we've already picked and eaten, and we sort of replaced that with something else. But if you look at the size of them, you might not really be able to see, but they are a lot bigger than what the first succession was at the same sort of time of growth. So back over there, we've got a couple of tomato plants, a little patch of chard, and some chilies. And what we've realized is, with the row of chard we have in the bed down there and this, it's actually just too much. It sort of grows so quickly, and as you cut it, more shoots come up, and it's one row is probably enough. So that's going back to what I was saying earlier, having our first growing season on the allotment, we can now start seeing all the things that we didn't do wrong, but things that we'll change and things that would sort of make more sense next year, so we can hopefully grow a bigger variety. And if anyone follows me on Instagram, I've been, showing pictures of all the harvests we do every week, and every single week we're getting a lot more stuff and a lot more variety as new things come into season, which is great. But our aim for next year is to have a bigger variety than what we have now, so we can hopefully get more variety a lot quicker. It makes sense, and we can buy less vegetables every week. And the cucamelons we've got planted sort of down this side over here. Also a bit slow to the game, but they took really, really long to sprout or germinate, and we thought that they died basically. So not too sure why that is, but hopefully next year we'll have better luck with those. But they're coming along now. The French climbing beans along here, I've shot all the way up to the top. Don't know if you can see, but they basically don't really have anywhere else to go. So might just train them to go along that side and see what happens. But we've got loads and loads of little French beans popping up on there now, so it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we can start harvesting everything from there. Just over here are our tomatoes and tomatillos. The variety we have, I think it's a Ukrainian variety or Russian, I can't quite remember. It's from the Real Seed Company, and I'll put the link down below. And it's a bush variety, so it doesn't kind of vine up. It's incredibly productive. The one thing is though, we have got hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes, but none of them are ripening yet. So I did a bit of reading online, and it's got a lot to do with whether the plant is producing more flowers and that kind of thing. So we picked all the flowers off to hopefully get the plant, or trick the plant into thinking that it needs to start ripening its fruit. So it puts less energy into developing more fruit and focuses on ripening the fruit that's on there. It's supposed to be like an in-between a cherry and a big plum tomato, or a beef tomato. So I think it's more of a plum sort of size, and some of them have gotten absolutely massive. Like, I'll show you. Like that one there, it's like almost like a beef tomato. It's massive. I don't think they're supposed to be that big. I think they should be more sort of that size, so not quite cherry, but smaller than a salad tomato. But to be honest, I just think this weather's been playing havoc on everything. Like, most of our stuff's doing quite well. Our salad hasn't bolted, but it was quite well established really, really early on. So I think it's sort of being able to maintain itself. But our calabrese, which is a quick heading variety, almost all of it's bolted, with exception to 2 heads. There's a few plants that still haven't started heading yet, but it's just one of those things, nothing we can really do about it. This weather is a bit sort of crazy for this time of the year, and in fact, of the 9 years I've lived in England, this is probably the warmest, sort of consistently warm summer we've had, basically. So it's just one of those things. It's not going to be like that every year. So hopefully next year, if we decide to grow calabrese again, we won't have that same problem. Everything's pretty much the same. These last couple of beds, we've got some spring onions, and we've planted second successions and third successions of beetroot. We've been harvesting the spring onions now from about a week basically, and they're not the biggest, but they're okay. There's so much of them, we don't need to have really big green onions or spring onions. We can just pick more of them basically. In this bed over here, we've got some 2 winter squash in either end, and just a couple of straggling kohlrabi. We've got some more winter squash in this bed over here. A few more successions of carrots which are coming on, more beetroot, more radish, more spring onions, and some swede at the bottom. And this was also one of the last beds we planted, and we didn't really prep it that well, so the weed pressure is a bit annoying. There's a lot more of it coming up, but this is part of the game. Everything's looking okay. We've already taken a small harvest of the radish, so I'm sure it'll be okay once sort of the carrots get bigger as well. All their tops will sort of shade out the soil, which kind of dampens down the weed pressure, which is okay. We've got loads and loads of chilies down the side of the polytunnel, and they are yet to ripen as well. I mean, they're absolutely massive. Some of them are as probably about 5 inches long or 4 inches long, and 4 inches long, and they should start ripening now, but none of them are, so I'm not 100% sure why that is. I might do a bit of reading to see if it might be worth just picking them and letting them ripen by themselves. You can actually just keep them green. I've read on this variety we have, but it'd be nice to have them the color we want them basically, which is red. But if anyone knows why that could be happening, let me know down in the comments. It'd be really interesting to see what people have to say and what experience they've had with chilies. Yeah, so we just kind of think that they are at the point of the size they should be, but we just can't figure out why they ripen. Maybe they just ripen really quickly over a few days. I don't know, but yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to see what people's experiences are. And lastly, in the polytunnel, we have quite a few sweet pepper plants, and they are going absolutely nuts. I don't know if you can see, but there's loads and loads and loads of small little peppers popping up everywhere. And the one thing I just want to say before I go is, a couple of videos ago I was speaking about us getting another allotment, and it was a site sort of down there, a really big one that went all the way to the back. Now that didn't quite work out because someone else had been on the list for that one, so they got it before us. However, we have got a new allotment, not quite yet, it'll be a couple of weeks still, and it's kind of worked out really, really well, because the one that we're taking over is this one right behind us, and it's even got a really cool little shed on. It's about the same, or it's the exact same length of ours, but it's slightly narrower. Well, at least we think it is. We couldn't quite tell. But it's going to be amazing because it gives us an opportunity to be able to increase the variety we grow, the variety of vegetables we grow. So, like for example, we haven't grown potatoes this year because they do take up a fair amount of space, and we wanted to try, other things basically. But now we could dedicate a whole bed to growing different potatoes, and we don't have to worry about it because we know how much stuff we can get from the space we've got on this allotment. But we can also sort of grow some longer growing things like garlics and onion, so that should be quite interesting. It's not too much work to do to get it to sort of to a starting point, compared to this one. At least this one took us a long time, and it was in winter as well, so we'll have this in summer, so we'll be able to kind of work on this every week, and get it ready for hopefully some autumn planting for stuff to overwinter, or even better, we'll be able to hit the ground running next spring and just have loads of stuff. So that's it for today, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed the little update about what's going on in the plot. I have mentioned it before about the podcast that I've wanted to do, and I've started quite slowly to increase the amount I've done. So I've done one quite recently, and myself, Matt and Katie did a podcast during the week that I still need to sort of piece together and upload. But you can find the podcast on most places: SoundCloud, Spotify, Anchor, iTunes. So if you just search for Rough Around the Hedges, go give it a listen. Let me know what you think. They're a bit different to the videos, obviously. It's a different medium. You got to listen rather than watch. But yeah, let me know what you think. And if you want to carry on watching these videos, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you enjoyed watching today's video as well. I should be back in a week or so, speaking about something a bit different again. I'm sort of matching between the allotment and market gardening sort of content. So that's it. I hope you guys have a good week. I'll see you later.